clear across the country that investors are driving up the values of healthcare assets. So what is a healthcare asset, first of all? If I take a commercial building and we put a financial services business in there, then it's obviously occupied by a fit and services business. If we take that same building and you put a medical center in there, it becomes a healthcare asset. So essentially the tenant makes it a healthcare asset. So there's clearly some value in the land and the building, but once that medical tenant goes in on a longer term lease and they're a resilient tenant, investors are happy to pay a significant premium for that same building for the medical tenant versus the fin services tenant. So we need to ask ourselves why, and then we need to say, well, what is the advantage? How do you make the most of this current landscape that we're in? So first of all, the reason being that pre-COVID, investors were starting to see that there wasn't really a comparable tenant to a veterinary, dental, or medical tenant. They tend to stay long-term. They're highly trustworthy. They always pay their rent. They've got a lot of goodwill in that location. So to move is difficult. And they tend to become quite comfortable there because fit-out costs are massive. And naturally, doctors tend to be more focused on delivering great medicine than they do about saying, well, now we're going to go and scale this into a massive operation somewhere else. So there's a lot of trust and a lot of confidence in a medical tenant. Now, the pandemic has really accelerated that for the fact that they stayed open the whole way throughout. The majority stayed profitable and paid their rents. And naturally, you've got a lot more investment that is flowing into this space. So if you are a doctor and you're looking to lease, the huge advantage is landlords want you as a tenant more than anyone else. So you've got huge leverage when you go into those negotiations, and always say you're looking at multiple sites, multiple options, and it's got to be a compelling deal to get you in there. You deserve a great deal because you are an A-grade tenant, but also because it's a very expensive operation to set up. It requires a lot of people, a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of IT and processes and systems, which means sometimes it can take a longer period for you to become profitable than other businesses. So you deserve that incentive to help you get started. If you're on the buying side, the key thing to know is if you buy a vacant building and you put your medical center into it, the value is going to increase significantly. So a vacant building is sold on a land and building rate. Once you put a tenant in there, it's sold on what's called a cap rate, which is a percentage of the income that you're charging yourself. So the risk is low for medical professionals to buy buildings and lease it back to themselves because in most cases, if they pay the right price for the property in the first case, by the time they put their business in there, they've significantly increased the value. If they hit hard times, they can put it on the market, they'll make a pretty decent profit. But if nothing else, when they look at their balance sheet, they can see that they've increased the value of their asset and all they did was occupy it, which is what they needed to do anyway.